Good day and welcome to the dining room table. Is New York City homeless shelter problem out of control? Largest shelter provider CEO speaks. This is New York City Mayor Eric Adams. He held a housing related press conference in November 2022. And he is going to speak on WIN, Women in Need, the largest shelter provider. And the CEO is Christine Quinn. If she looks familiar, she's also the former city council member, the speaker of the city council. And here is Mayor Eric Adams speaking on a shelter that she runs that he recently visited. Let's listen.
Christine, it's good seeing you. Was at one of your WIN centers, and I think that was in East New York and in Brooklyn, where those women there, women in need, was receiving the services they deserve.
Now, here is Christine Quinn, who is going to speak on what she sees as the challenges within the homeless system and the shelters. Let's listen.
Thank you. And thank you very much, Jessica Katz, our Chief Housing Officer. I want to profoundly thank Mayor Eric Adams, and he mentioned being at WIN. Your visit made such an impact on those moms and those children. So thank you. I have an invitation for another thing, but I'll call you later. I want to thank Commissioners Cariana and my good friend Commissioner Jenkins for all of their work, and Senator Kavanaugh for what he's done and what we know he will do. My name is Christine Quinn, and I am the president and CEO of WIN, Women in Need. We are the largest provider of shelter and supportive housing and supportive services for New Yorkers with children experiencing homelessness. And many New Yorkers don't know that there is such a thing as family homelessness. But at any given time, 60 to 65% of the people in shelter are families with children. In fact, tonight, there will be more children in shelter than there are seats in the Barclays Arena. So the reforms that are being put in place will make an enormous difference in reducing that number and, most importantly, getting children into permanent homes. You know, homeless families need housing. Children need to not grow up in shelter. The women who come to WIN want to work. 52% of our mothers end up working, but at times they haven't been able to work the number of hours required to get a voucher because they have social service visits to make, because they have mental health visits to make, because they have to meet with their case manager at the Department of Homeless Services, et cetera, et cetera. And for following the rules and working, they were still denied a housing voucher. And make no mistake, a FHEPS housing voucher is like the holy grail to a homeless mother. This reduction in hours required to get a voucher will enable really countless families to continue to work and to get out of shelter. It is, as Jessica said, a game changer. Recognizing the needs of homeless families, recognizing that they exist, talking to them as the mayor did, and then making changes is what good government is about. And that is what our mothers and their children deserve. So on behalf of the 5,000 people who will sleep at one of WIN's 13 shelters tonight, I just want to say thank you, Mayor Adams. Thank you for recognizing that not one of those mothers wants to sleep in a shelter. They're not there because they want to be. They're there because they couldn't keep or find affordable housing, or they had to flee an abuser. With the change I mentioned and the others, their lives are now changed forever. They now have real hope. You know, and what's worse than having no hope is what the government used to do in this town. It used to give homeless mothers false hope. These reforms are not false hope. They are real hope, and they are going to bring our families something to be very thankful for next week. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Now you have a press conference with New York City Comptroller Brad Lander in May 2024 after he did an investigation into Adams administration's migrant shelter policy. He's getting ready to introduce Christine Quinn. Here he's going to talk about a shelter not too far from, actually two shelters not too far from his house, and he is saying that the Adams administration is cruel for having some of those children leave before the school year is over, because for the past 2 years they've lived there and they have planted roots in the shelter. So let's listen to him.
My house, and the kids have been there, many of them, about 2 years, and really put down roots in what are two great shelters and also a great elementary school. P.S.
Now here's Christine Quinn getting ready to speak. She said that the Adams administration's 60-day rule is cruel. Let's listen.
Members, I mentioned the two wind shelters around the corner from my house, and they were the first place where I went and saw the sort of model of what it would look like to try to actually help folks through the process. It was when that sort of first, before anybody else, was doing asylum application clinics for folks in their shelters. And in addition to really supporting the families, you will have seen the story in the city this week about the work they're doing to push back and not let families be displaced again. So many of them that have been in that school for 2 years, but also have been just forthright advocates for the rights of everybody who is homeless, regardless of where they come from. And it is my pleasure to introduce WIN Executive Director Chris Quinn.
Excuse me. Thank you. And let me first start by thanking Comptroller Lander and his staff. This is a very important report that documents everything we all know and everything we've seen on the front lines. And a report like this will make it so much easier to pass Intro 210, to pass the companion legislation on the state level. So we are better off today in this battle because of this report. Now, let me be just crystal clear. The 60-day rule is cruel. You're ripping children from a place they have called home, in some cases for 2 years. You're uprooting children who have gone through the trauma of having to flee their country of origin. Some children who have literally walked to America in search of a better life with their parents. Every other time in history, when we have seen an influx of immigrants to New York City, the city has done better. They have aided the city. This time should be no different. But the posture of the administration is what is different. They are trying to push these families out in the hopes that if you really treat people in a cruel and abusive way, they will disappear. But that isn't what happens. They end up on the street. They end up in illegal housing, putting themselves and their families at risk and in danger. Let me tell you, the families we've had, close to 1,300 people, the children are part of the fabric of their schools. The parents are in our work programs. They are in our legal clinics getting temporary protective status or asylum or U visas or whatever they qualify for. All the 30-day and 60-day rules do is harass people, waste city money, and play out a xenophobic policy that is so clearly targeting people of color who have come to this country in the search of a better life. It is not who New York is, and we will work at WIN. We will work with everyone in this coalition and beyond to get it to stop.